We wake up and we are young. We have time. We save. Then, here comes the 20s and the 30s. We are married, baby number 1 arrives, and 2, oh no, nothing saves those struggling hand to mouth. And then, one day, we wake up and 60 is here. And nothing's been achieved.
Don't get caught in the cycle. Take your first step to a secured financial future with Petra. Call Petra today for your free advisory session on 024-243-5037. Petra, achieve more.
It's possible to achieve your financial goals. However, finding the right solution for your financial goals can be complicated. From finding the right investment to managing all your accounts with different providers, or being able to fully track your transactions. So, we thought of making it simple for you. Whatever your goal may be, the Achieve app gives you the right support system to get you there. It provides you with easy access to the right financial products you need to realize your goals. The sign-up process is simple and without any stress. You're also able to grow your savings and investment with the DigiSave account. You can also monitor your transactions effectively. So, download the app now and do more with your cash.
Goals, dreams, aspirations. We all have them, and they're the reasons why we save and invest, aren't they? But are you saving right? Because if you're not, then you're setting yourself up for disappointment. Let me introduce you to Petra's Wealth Planner, a personal financial planning and advisory service for individuals who desire to achieve their dreams. With Wealth Planner, a trained individual sits with you and develops a financial plan based on your unique needs and recommends the appropriate financial investment to attain your goals. What you need to do is to contact Petra for a planning session, and an advisor is going to call you to introduce him or herself and get to know you better and understand your current position and what your desires are. Then your goals are clearly outlined and a financial plan is developed based on your unique situation. Your advisor will also make some savings and investment recommendations to you to consider in executing the plan. Remember, the right execution is what leads to achieving your goals. That is why your advisor will keep tabs on your plan and provide ongoing advice throughout the execution until your goals are achieved. So, what are you waiting for? Call us on 0242-435-037 or send us a DM on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram at Petra on social, and let's get started. Petra, achieve more.
Running payroll can be a strenuous task, so the last thing you want is an extra lengthy process to validate schedules and then make payments, only to be told the payment couldn't be identified or assigned to your staff. But validating schedules and payments for your staff's pension contributions shouldn't be that stressful. With Petra's self-service schedule validation, you can validate your monthly schedules with a few clicks right from the comfort of your seat in less than 3 minutes. It's so simple. Here is what you have to do. 1. Open your browser and visit members.petratrust.com. Enter your login credentials and then select Manage Employer and validate. 2. To upload your schedule for validation. 3. After a successful validation, a report and payment advice will be sent to your email address. 4. Use the schedule ID on the payment advice as the bank account number when making payments at the bank, or as the reference if you are making payments via bank transfer. That's it. So simple. Please remember that every validated schedule will have a unique schedule ID, which will start with SI with a few other characters. Without this ID, the bank cannot accept your payments. So always look out for the unique schedule ID on the payment advice for payments. Experience convenience. If you require any assistance, click on the chat feature on our members portal or contact our client services team on phone at 024-243-5037 extension 4. Email clientservices@petratrust.com or contact your relationship manager. Petra, achieve more.
On the new investment guidelines. My name is Sarah, and I will be your moderator for this afternoon session. This webinar is brought to you by Petra, and it is part of our commitments to ensure that our scheme members and even non-scheme members are educated and have the right information on the key happenings in the pensions and finance industry and can make very informed retirement decisions. Again, this is brought to you by Petra Trust. Petra is a licensed corporate trustee that really primarily focuses on ensuring that our scheme members have retirement information to also be able to plan their lives better. We do this through our array of products and then our cutting-edge technology as well as other services. And as such, we have a lot of products in store for you. So you can hop onto our website, www.petraonline.com, after the program to interact more with us and get more information. Please note that this is the first in the series of webinars on the new investment guidelines. And so we'll be taking baby steps today just to understand how this works and then some other things that you need to know. So we'll come back again in two other parts where you can be more informed about what the new investment guidelines are. So we'll take a few ground rules. And if you're joining this webinar from any of our social media platforms, either on YouTube or Facebook, please leave your comments in the comment section and your feedback as well, because it's very important to us to know how best to proceed after today. And if you're joining on Microsoft Teams as well, you can use the reactions buttons and still put your questions in the comment section. We'll collate everything and answer during the Q&A part. And we also appreciate your feedback, so please take time to take the survey after the webinar, and we will have your results and share them, or any questions or anything at all that we have. So we'll come back and then take our panelists for today, but we'll take a short break now, and then after we come back, we'll delve into what we're really here for.
Goals, dreams, aspirations. We all have them, and they are the reasons why we save and invest, aren't they? But are you saving right? Because if you're not, then you're setting yourself up for disappointment. Let me introduce you to Petra's Wealth Planner, a personal financial planning and advisory service for individuals who desire to achieve their dreams. With Wealth Planner, a trained individual sits with you and develops a financial plan based on your unique needs and recommends the appropriate financial investment to attain your goals. What you need to do is to contact Petra for a planning session, and an advisor is going to call you to introduce him or herself and get to know you better and understand your current position and what your desires are. Then your goals are clearly outlined and a financial plan is developed based on your unique situation. Your advisor will also make some savings and investment recommendations to you to consider in executing the plan. Remember, the right execution is what leads to achieving your goals. That is why your advisor will keep tabs on your plan and provide ongoing advice throughout the execution until your goals are achieved. So, what are you waiting for? Call us on 0242 435 037 or send us a DM on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram at Petra on social, and let's get started. Petra, achieve more.
Welcome back. And so we're going and have a conversation, starting our conversation today. We'd like to introduce our panelists. As I've already said, my name is Sarah and I'll be your moderator. And we have two very formidable gentlemen here to help us touch on the topic of the new investment guidelines. So I'll start introducing them and let them also tell you what they do here at Petra and the capacity they'll be serving in for today's webinar. So to my immediate right, we have...
So my name is Eugene Brickline. I'm the general manager for Petra. I manage our corporate trustee services. Thank you very much.
And?
Yeah, my name is Derek Ate. I'm the head of the portfolio management team at Petra. I supervise the team that ensures that our customers are getting very competitive returns for our contributions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. You're once again welcome. So to set the ball rolling, I mean, we're talking to different sets of people who might have some pensions knowledge and also might not. So to Eugene, before we even start talking about the new investment guidelines, what's the current terrain or how are pensions managed in Ghana today?
Right. Thank you very much, Sarah, for that question. So I'll just try and start from prior to 2008 when the new Pensions Act was passed. So prior to 2008, Ghana operated a single-tiered pension, which was essentially an insurance pension program that an entire 17.5% of contributions from workers and their employers were being given to SNIT to provide an insurance protection for pensions for individuals. The government, in seeking to provide better benefits for workers, introduced a new pension law in 2008, which is a multi-tiered Pensions Act, which brought into fruition the introduction of new tier 1, which is SNIT, tier 2, tier 3, which we have, and other social protection and retirement benefit acts as they are. So this tier 2 is what companies like Petra and other companies that we have in the industry provide services for. So the first one that SNIT provides is essentially an insurance. We call it social SNIT, which is an insurance protection. The second one is essentially an investment, which you get your benefits when you go on retirement, and there's tier 3, and it continues on. So we are in this current regime where there are contributions that you get. You make as a worker in Ghana, and your employers also make contributions with tax benefits from government through the Act, and these contributions are invested for your benefits so that when you go on pension, you are able to access these contributions to better your life after pension. So this is how the pensions regime has evolved from prior to 2008 to now where we have, and currently, as we know, there are new regulations that are supposed to further entrench this and make the lives of people after retirement, or when they are not in a position to work, better than what it is in the current regime.
Okay, so then a little bit about what you said. There are different allocations towards people's pensions, and then this is just to ensure the safekeeping and betterment of your retirement future when should you retire. And Caleb, if you take this, so I'm noticing that there's money that is taken from people. What is that? Those funds that are collected, what are they used for?
Okay, thank you very much, Sarah. So today we go through our custodians or collection bank, we get our contributions from our customers. And then when those contributions come in, the previous investment guidelines, there are about 7 groups of investments that we could make on their behalf.
Okay.
What typically we call asset classes.
Okay.
And those 7 groups are namely the Government of Ghana asset class or investment vehicle, the money market securities, which we can also call fixed deposits. You have the corporate bonds. We also have the shares or equities. You have mutual funds, some other people call them collective investment schemes. You have the alternative asset class, and then you have what we call I mentioned collective investment steps already.
Yeah,
so
mutual funds.
Those are the type of percent of customers' funds. I mean, in quoted equities or in shares, and as well as for corporate bonds, you can't do more than 35%. So those were some of the limits we had in the previous guidelines, and that is how we invest all the scheme funds that come into. I mean, that we manage to our customers contributing towards their pensions.
Okay.
One thing I'll add to is that in the old regulations or in the previous guidelines, all these investments are done for everybody.
Okay.
So whatever the trust board or the trustee decides through their fund managers to allocate to, let's say, Government of Ghana securities, to allocate to fixed deposits, it applies to every contribution that we receive within the scheme.
Okay, so then it's all it's like a pool of funds. Everything is invested in areas like treasury bills and fixed deposits that you take from your traditional banks,
and shares. So all these funds are invested for individuals, and you get interest or returns after that. So why are there some new guidelines? What's the difference between what you currently have? Because it looks like there are areas you can invest in, and then there are now some new guidelines. What is the difference or the relationship?
Yeah, so thank you very much again, Sarah. Like I mentioned today or previously, the new investment guidelines sort of apply to every scheme member, no matter their age, no matter their status, no matter what stage of life they are in. After careful consideration, after stakeholder engagement within the industry, the regulator recognized that we shouldn't be investing the same way for each contributor retirement. Would have a lot more time, what we call a longer investment horizon, to be able to benefit from an investment in stocks or in shares. Yes, to be able to invest in, to be able to benefit from an investment in shares,
like MTN shares,
yes, or in stocks. Yes, and because these typically you spend maybe 10-15 years to sort of really benefit from an investment in a share and stock. On the other hand, for some of our older folks, our guys who are almost grandpas or grandmas, yeah, they are between 50 to 55 years, they have a shorter investment horizon, they are going into retirement very soon. Their focus is preservation.
Yes.
Right? Their focus is not interest or how much return I can make. It's about how much money I'm going to retire.
Yes.
So for those people, for those contributors, the regulators recognize that we need to preserve their funds more than find higher interest rates for them. So we are asking trustees, or we are asking all the stakeholders to invest these contributors in a way that will make sure that their funds are preserved. Whatever value they have when they hit 50 or 55 are preserved.
Okay.
So that is one of the major differences or major introductions that have come in for the new investment guidelines.
Okay, so I'd like to stay on that a bit with you, because we're getting that in the first part of or in the first regulations we used to have, it was just everything was contributed and invested for you, despite your age or anything. But in the new one, there's some segmentation that comes with age. So then what everybody is really eager to know, what are the new guidelines that you're talking about?
So before I go into the new guidelines, I think I would like to touch on the different types of investments we have, the broad categorizations of investments. So like I mentioned different asset classes or investment groups, like Government of Ghana securities, like fixed deposits. What is their main difference? For what we call variable income investments, these are investments that before you enter or before you invest your money, before you agree to invest your funds, you are unable to tell exactly the amount of interest you earn on that investment. So that's what a variable income investment. An example is a stock. An example is like you mentioned,
like MTN shares
or EcoBank shares.
Yes.
Those are investments that are variable income investments, because you can't tell what the interest rate will be at the time of withdrawal or at the time of maturity of that investment. So that's what we call broadly variable income investment.
And it's dependent on the performance of whatever company you're investing with.
Okay. So there are other factors that determine the interest rate that you earn on that investment.
Okay.
The other bit, the other type of investment, broad type of investment, is what we call fixed income investment type.
Okay.
And these investments are the ones that before you sign or before you invest in them, you know exactly how much interest you are expecting to get at the time of maturity or at the time of the maturity of that investment. So this is like a fixed deposit, like a government treasury bill. When you go into a bank and you say you're buying a 91-day fixed deposit, they're able to tell you this will be sold to you at 15% or at 14%. So if you put in 10,000 Ghana cedis, you know exactly how much you're earning in 3 months or in 6 months or in 1 year.
Yes.
So those are the two main types of investment class.
Okay. All right.
So now to the new investment guidelines.
Yes, but let me just do a quick recap for people
Okay,
that, because sometimes people just get scared. So you're not having a financial course per se, but I think pretty much from what Caleb said, don't be too worried about it. This is the first time we're having this, and so we'll definitely share some FAQs. There are two broad categories when it comes to investments. Those that give you a fixed return, and so you call them fixed income, and those that don't promise you a return when you begin, and they're called variable income, so like your shares. And then for the fixed income, say you walk into Access Bank or SG and say I want a 91-day FD and all that. Those ones are the fixed income investments. So then again, to our investment guidelines. So part of what we're going to be discussing today is mostly about the investment guidelines, but we'll take a quick breather here and then we'll come back and then Caleb will take us through that. Thank you.
It's possible to achieve your financial goals. However, finding the right solution for your financial goals can be complicated. From finding the right investment to managing all your accounts with different providers or being able to fully track your transactions. So, we thought of making it simple for you. Whatever your goal may be, the Achieve app gives you the right support system to get you there. It provides you with easy access to the right financial products you need to realize your goals. The sign-up process is simple and without any stress. You're also able to grow your savings and investment with the DigiSave account. You can also monitor your transactions effectively. So, download the app now and do more with your cash.
Goals, dreams, aspirations. We all have them, and they are the reasons why we save and invest, aren't they? But are you saving right? Because if you're not, then you're setting yourself up for disappointment. Let me introduce you to Petra's Wealth Planner.
To note that you can leave your comments and your questions in the comment sections and we'll attend to them as we go on. So before we went for the short break, Caleb, we were on what the new investment guidelines actually say. So if you could help our viewers to understand what the new investment guidelines are.
Okay, so thank you very much, Sarah. What I'm going to touch on is one of the main changes with the new investment guidelines, which has been introduced by the new investment guidelines. And then in subsequent sessions, I'm sure we'll go into more detail. So like I mentioned, or I tried to describe earlier, there are different types of investments, and using that understanding, the regulator has created different subgroups within our schemes based on their ages, based on the ages of the scheme members. So we have today 4 different funds. 3 of them are the types of funds that we can invest in, or by default contributors should be investing in. And then there's the last one, which is by formal request. I'll come to that later. So for our 3 sub-funds, we have Fund 1, which is the moderately aggressive fund. So Fund 1, which is the moderately aggressive fund, is for individuals or contributors who are within the ages of 15 and 44.
Okay, 15 and 44.
Yes. So Fund 1, moderately aggressive fund, individuals who are between the ages of 15 and 44.
Can someone work at 15 years, or this is a snitch rule or something?
No, so per the regulator, at 15 you can start receiving contributions on your behalf for your pensions.
All right.
And Fund 2, which is what we call the moderately conservative fund, is assigned to contributors who are between the ages of 45 and 54. And then we have Fund 3, which is a conservative fund, and they are contributors who are between the ages of 55 and 60. I'll come later to Fund 4. But these are the 3 funds that are grouped by ages in the new investment guidelines.
Okay, all right. So then these are, so Eugene, are these what you call the constituent funds?
Yes, thank you very much, Sarah. So these are what we call the constituent funds. And I just want to put this in a little bit of perspective from where we've come from to where we are. And I want to just commend government and the MPRA for this. So I see it in light of progress, right? We started from a social protection where the SNET had essentially an insurance where irrespective of your contribution, so far as you met a certain criteria, when you go on pension, they will pay a certain minimum of your salary to you until you died. Okay. And then in 2008, they brought in the new Pension Act, which said, okay, now we can pass on some of your contribution into an investment vehicle like Petra and other companies, and it will be invested into asset classes that meet what their age requirements are and get what they can, the most that they could get. So prior to the implementation of constituent funds, everybody gets what everybody gets, what trustees can do. But with the implementation of constituent funds, people who are younger, whose monies are going to stay in investment for longer period, can stand the benefit of getting better, right? Whereas people who are older doesn't have to go through the stress of breaking investments before they can get their redemptions done, because part of their money is in a longer term investment. So this is a progress from just insurance payment from SNET to lump sum payments in tier 2 from 2008. So now I can actually better my investment through the implementation of what we call constituent funds. So yes, this is a type of constituent fund. Small funds within a fund, each having its own investment plan or its own characteristic that enables it to perform according to the goals that are set.
That's amazing. So is this new in Ghana, or you typically have other investment houses already doing this in terms of your risk profiling and all that?
Okay, the aspect is new in Ghana.
Yes.
Okay, so the regulator introduced this last year in September, when it was gazetted, and so we are expected, or all trustees are expected to take at least this year to make certain changes within their systems, within their structures, to ensure that they could actually implement some of these changes that have been introduced. So yes, it's a new thing for this part of...
In terms of pensions, but what about other investments? Because sometimes when you go to open an investment account, they give you a form to give your age and your how much risk you can take and all that.
Oh yeah, okay, the idea is not new.
Okay.
Because for me at Petra, when you visit our financial advisory subsidiary, we will ask you certain questions that would speak to some of the things I mentioned, what your age is, what your objectives are, what are kind of aspirations you have, how many children you have. All that is supposed to get to understand you better, so that we can match the investments to your needs.
Okay.
So that it's personalized.
It's personalized.
When you go to any advisory firm, and I advise anyone to talk to Petra.
Yes.
Because we've been doing this for a while, and we should be able to tell you exactly what we will need to achieve whatever dream we have. So yes, it's not a new thing, but it's something new within
the pension space. Okay, so just a little recap on what they're saying. It looks like now your funds are not going to be invested as a bulk, and it's not too new. It's something that has already existed before in other forms. It's going to be based on your age grouping, so you probably see that on your screen. There are 4 different funds. We'll talk more about that because what we're seeing is there are age groupings in terms of if you're 15 to 44 years, you belong to a moderately aggressive fund. If your age then drops, there's a different fund for that. And then for those who are within the 55 to 60 year bracket in Ghana, 55 years is for voluntary retirement and 60 years is statutory retirement. They are in a more conservative fund, and then it's also for the purpose of ensuring that they get their monies intactly when they go. So with these guidelines or these categories of funds you have seen or you've given us, what are the different percentages that go with it?
Thank you once again, Sarah. So like I was describing earlier on, we have 4 different funds, and I'll go into the first 2 so that we can take a break and come back. So for Fund 1, which is for individuals or contributors between the ages of 15 and 45, or 44, you would have a a minimum of 15% to 40% in the variable income space, and then a minimum of 60 to 85% in your fixed income space. So that is for fund one. This is obviously because you are younger, you have a longer investment horizon, so you can actually invest in things like shares, in private equity, in real estate, and you would be young enough to benefit from the interest rate that these different investments give you. So that is for fund one. Ages 15 to 44 is the moderately aggressive fund. Yes. On fund two, we have the moderately conservative fund. These are for individuals who are between the ages of 45 and 55. Between the ages of 45 and 54, sorry. These individuals we call them moderately conservative guys, or moderately conservative contributors. And their funds are invested, between, the fund two, the moderately conservative fund, have their variable income, which is lower. So you have a maximum of 15% to your variable income, a minimum of 5%, and then you have a wider range for your fixed income. So that is between a minimum of 60% to 85% of your funds for your fixed income should be, in fixed income investments.
All right.
So that is for fund two.
Yes.
I'll just take that again. So fund two investments are 5 to 20% in variable income and 80 to 95% in fixed income.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Fund one, 60 to 85% in fixed income, and then 15 to 40% in variable
income. Okay. All right. So thank you very much for that. We'll take a quick break, but just know that all this information will be made available to you as well. And if you're a Petra customer or non-Petra customer, you can still reach out to us, and then we can talk to you some more about it. So we'll take a quick break, and we'll be back to talk some more on Constituent funds.
Payroll can be a strenuous task, so the last thing you want is an extra lengthy process to validate schedules and then make payments, only to be told the payment couldn't be identified or assigned to your staff. But validating schedules and payments for your staff's pension contributions shouldn't be that stressful. With Petra's self-service schedule validation, you can validate your monthly schedules with a few clicks right from the comfort of your seat in less than 3 minutes. It's so simple. Here is what you have to do. 1. Open your browser and visit members.petratrust.com. Enter your login credentials and then select Manage Employer and Validate. 2. To upload your schedule for validation. 3. After a successful validation, a report and payment advice will be sent to your email address. 4. Use the schedule ID on the payment advice as the bank account number when making payment at the bank, or as the reference if you are making payment via bank transfer. That's it. So simple. Please remember that every validator schedule will have a unique schedule ID, which will start with SI with a few other characters. Without this ID, the bank cannot accept your payments. So always look out for the unique schedule ID on the payment advice for payments. Experience convenience. If you require any assistance, click on the chat feature on our members portal or contact our client services team on phone at 024-243-5037 extension 4. Email clientservices@petratrust.com or contact your relationship manager. Petra, achieve more.
It's possible to achieve your financial goals. However, finding the right solution for your financial goals can be complicated. From finding the right investment to managing all your accounts with different providers, or being able to fully track your transactions. So, we thought of making it simple for you. Whatever your goal may be, the Achieve app gives you the right support system to get you there. It provides you with easy access to the right financial products you need to realize your goals. The sign-up process is simple and without any stress. You're also able to grow your savings and investment with the DigiSave account. You can also monitor your transactions effectively. So, download the app now and do more with your cash.
Goals, dreams, aspirations. We all have them, and they are the reasons why we save and invest, aren't they? But are you saving right? Because if you're not, then you're setting yourself up for disappointment. Let me introduce you to Petra's Wealth Planner, a personal financial planning and advisory service for individuals who desire to achieve their dreams. With Wealth Planner, a trained individual sits with you and develops a financial plan based on your unique needs and recommends the appropriate financial investment to attain your goals. What you need to do is to contact Petra for a planning session, and an advisor is going to call you to introduce him or herself and get to know you better and understand your current position and what your desires are. Then your goals are clearly outlined and a financial plan is developed based on your unique situation. Your advisor will also make some savings and investment recommendations to you to consider in executing the plan. Remember, the right execution is what leads to achieving your goals. That is why your advisor will keep tabs on your plan and provide ongoing advice throughout the execution until your goals are achieved. So, what are you waiting for? Call us on 0242 435 037 or send us a DM on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram at Petra on social, and let's get started. Petra, achieve more.
And welcome back from that break. So we will take the fund types again on the Constituent funds, just to remind you that you can leave your questions and comments in the comment section, and we'll attend to them when we get to the Q&A part of this webinar. So back to you again, Caleb. Yeah. We're discussing the fund types. If you could run us through them again.
Yeah, so like I was saying, we have, I'm going to go to the first two funds, which is Fund 1 and Fund 2. We have individuals who are aged between 15, individuals who are aged between 15 and 44 are in Fund 1. And their investments are allocated 15 to 40% in variable income, 15 to 40% in variable income. Variable income, like I mentioned, an example would be shares or private equity investments or real estate investments. These are investments whose interest you can't tell before you invest in them. Yes. So because these contributors are younger, they have longer investment horizons, they can benefit from these kind of investments. So they can do up to 40% of variable income investments. For fixed income, for Fund 1, you do 60 to 85% of contributions in fixed income. So Fund 1's contributions are allocated 60 to 85% in fixed income. Okay. So moving on to Fund 2. Fund 2, which is the moderately conservative fund. So if you compare Fund 1, if you compare them to the individuals in Fund 1, they are older, but they are not as old as the Fund 3 individuals. So they are between the ages of 45 and 54. So these individuals have some time. They can benefit a little from the variable income, but they cannot do too much. So their cap for variable income is 20%. And the minimum, the floor for variable income is 5%. So that's for Fund 2. Their cap for fixed income is a little higher than the Fund 1, which was 85. This is 95%. So they can do up to 95% in treasury bills or in fixed deposits. Those are fixed income investments. Their floor for fixed income is 80% of the fund. So that's for Fund 1 and Fund 2. Another thing about Fund 2 is that the regulator has indicated that you should do at least 40% of your fixed income investments in Government of Ghana securities. We all know that in this country, when we say Government of Ghana, we are talking about a risk-free asset class. Yes. So since you are moderately conservative and you are getting close to retirement, you want to have at least 40% of your money, of your contributions in Government of Ghana treasury bills or Government of Ghana bonds. Okay. Thank you.
All right. And then what about the other funds?
So I'll go into Fund 3 and Fund 4, but I think Eugene would like to add a little bit about these two funds before I go.
Yeah. So just again, I try to balance off Caleb by putting things a little bit in layman's terms. Okay. But as we talk about the funds, so basically there is a Fund 1 which is for young people who have at least 15 years to retirement age, where they can have a longer investment. Their monies can be put in assets that can stay in for at least 15 years and can cream off a lot of investment returns. That's the first one, which we call moderately aggressive. And then there's a conservative one, which is people who are between the ages of 45 to 55. They are more conservative. So those are somewhere in between or the average. And then you have the very conservative ones, which are people who are nearing their pension age. Those people we want to sort of manage and make sure that they can retire very comfortably. Those are like the safe zone people. And then the final one is like one where we give individuals a lot of choice, which is the aggressive one. You can elect, if you fall between Fund 1 and 2, you can decide that I want to join the very aggressive one. I want to agree that put me all out there. I want my funds to be put at the most use and make sure I can gain the best. So essentially, before all this came into being, the individual has no choice. You put your contribution in, your employer contributes their portion, and the fund manager invests according to the guidelines of MPRA that is giving. And then when you go on pension or you reach the qualifying age, your monies are given to you as the rules say. But with this, there's a lot more flexibility. There's a lot more levers that the trustees can use to make sure that they are maxing out of what they can get for you as an individual. And you, the individual, also has a lever that you can use. So whether you fall in Fund 1 or Fund 2, you have the option of also coming to say, listen, I want to be aggressive, or I want to be put in a place where I am doing more or doing X and Y with my retirement benefit. So again, you already have your SNIT, which is going to pay your salary benefits when you go on pension. You have your Tier 2 and you have your Tier 3. We'll talk about Tier 3 later. But in this Tier 2, that regulation covers, you have the option of taking decisions. And if you don't, according to the law, you fall between Fund 1, Fund 2, or Fund 3. Everybody will fall between one of these according to the regulation and the new guidelines. But you, the individual, also has the option of electing and saying that I want to be put in this other fund, apart from those in, and I think Caleb will explain that when we go a little bit further down the line, those who are nearing pension for which they don't have any choice than to stay in the last lap where they find themselves.
All right. So moderately aggressive, 15-year-olds to 44, and then moderately conservative, which is from 45 to 54.
Yeah.
And then what are the next ones after that?
So now we are going to the conservative fund. These are older colleagues, that are individual contributors who are nearing the status of grandma or grandpa, and they want to now rest, enjoy the fruits of their labor. Yes. So this individuals, like I mentioned, are between the ages of 55 and 60. This is the conservative fund. So like the name tells you, it is a fund that has no time to benefit or to wait for interest rates. It's a fund that's focused on preservation.
Okay.
That's the main focus of that fund. That fund doesn't really prioritize interest rates. That fund is making sure that what if I have 50,000 seeds, if I have 100,000 seeds, if I have $1 million or 1 million CDs at age 55, I can say that I'm going to have that 1 million CDs at 60. So I don't want to increase that money to those funds into $2 million or $3 million or $2 million CDs. I just need my money preserved, my value preserved. Okay. That's the conservative fund. To be able to do this, then there's a type of asset that you can invest in, which is a fixed income asset.
Yes.
You can't do variable income with conservative funds. It means you want to know exactly how much interest those, whether 10,000 cedis, whether 50,000 cedis, can give you in the next 5 years, in the next 2 years, in the next 3 years. And that is the conservative fund. And that is why you invest 100% of those funds in Government of Ghana securities. In fixed income securities. So 100% of the conservative fund goes into fixed income securities, into fixed deposits or into treasury bills or government bonds. Okay. Those are the only investments you can have in the fund 3, which is the conservative fund. Okay. Another restrictions for the fund 3 is to have at least 60% of your investment in Government of Ghana securities. So for fund 3, you should have at least 60% of your investment in Government of Ghana treasury bills or Government of Ghana bonds. Okay. That's for fund 3. All right. The last one I think Eugene touched on is for individuals. I don't know if it's still like me or younger, typically younger folks who are more risk tolerant and who are more aggressive. Generally when it comes to investments. So the regulator has recognized that we have some individuals who want to do a lot more aggressive or make a lot more aggressive investments. And these individuals have to formally request to their trustees or to the trust board of their pension schemes and indicate that they want to opt for the fund 4, which is the aggressive fund. Yes. For this fund, we are allowed to invest up to 60% of contributions in variable income securities. So between 20 and 60% of contributions will go into variable income securities, like shares, like stocks, stocks, like private equity investments, like projects, like real estate investment trusts. And these are investments that will take time to accrue or to generate very competitive returns. Okay. And those are for the aggressive individuals. Okay. And you can only do that, if you request or when you request formally to your trustee or to the trust board of your pension scheme. All right. Okay. Yes, and you can do up to 80% of aggressive funds in fixed income and the floor of 40%. In fixed income, like fixed deposits or Government of Ghana treasury bills. So that, in a nutshell, should sort of describe all the 4 different funds that we have introduced, that the regulators introduced with these new investment guidelines. Thank you. All right, so that's a lot. So we have 4 funds. Fund 1, which is a moderately aggressive scheme. Aggressive doesn't mean your funds are going to be indiscriminately invested. It just means that there's a part of variable income, which is investments that change in terms of their return. They are not fixed. And then you have fixed income as well. And then we have a conservative scheme, a very aggressive scheme, and then also a moderately conservative scheme. So is this by force, Eugene, if I would ask?
Yes, largely by force, because the guidelines say that all Tier 2 funds are supposed to be reconstituted into these constituent funds. So wherever there's, and Tier 2 is mandated, by the way, everybody's funds is going to have to fall into one constituent fund or the other, fund 1, 2, or 3 in some way, shape, or form, depending on the age of the individual. So it is by force, but I think it is very, very good. I am quite excited. There's a lot of things happening in this industry, and it is to the benefit of the general public and everybody that is in the country or that is working. Without these, then there's a lot of water under the bridge for a lot of people. There's a lot of value lost, right? But with these, then we are able to realize a lot of these values and give it to those. We are Petra quite excited about it. You were asking whether this was new. It is very new in the pensions industry and it's fairly complex. But we are Petra, being a brand that is very foremost and very innovative, are quite excited about this because it brings more value to customers.
and our systems have always been in a position to execute things like this. So we're very, very excited about it, and we are looking at the opportunities that it offers. We've been on the street trying to get the word out. I'm sure a lot of people don't know, but the new Pension Act, which was passed in 2008, means that every working individual can actually get up to 35% tax-free of their basic salary into their retirement benefits. Tier 1, which is SNIT, and Tier 2 only gives you up to 18.5%. There's another 16% that you can actually get tax-free, and if you are not doing a provident fund, you can use a personal pension like Savings Booster, which is a product that Petra came up with to be able to access that money that government is saying we can allow you to save that before you pay taxes. And most people are actually not taking advantage of this. And this is something that if you do for a long period, even if it's a small amount, it makes a big difference in what you get in the end. And so these small changes that we're talking about makes a very big difference. When you are 25 years and you have the opportunity of putting a lot more of your pension funds in a variable income security, like he's explaining, for another 25 years of your life or 35 years of your life, it could mean 100,000 difference in what you get when you go on pension, right? Rather than staying in what was before. When we talk about the erstwhile investment guidelines, so you could be in just a general fund where we just have to do things the way the funds are set to do, and the same contribution that you are making, 400 cedis from you, another 600 cedis from your employer, means that by your pension life you would have gotten 80,000 Ghana cedis as your lump sum. But by going into Constituent Fund, it could change from 80,000 to 140,000, because you are in a much more aggressive fund, and it can turn things around and make sure that because it's just a small change, but that small change of making sure that your end, like what you are doing, has changed by 40 cedis or 50 cedis per month in the fund that you are in over 20 years can turn your fortunes around. And that's what excites us. A lot of trustees find it quite difficult to implement something like this, but we at Petra are very excited, and we've done the things necessary to put this in place. I'm excited about implementing this for people. So it is by force, but it is for the good of everybody.
So does this apply to both Tier 2 and Tier 3? I mean, it looks like one is by force.
No. So according to the guidelines, for Tier 2 it is mandatory. For Tier 3 it is optional, where the scheme trustees will have to decide how they set up the Constituent Fund and the investment guideline for that. But for Tier 2 it is mandatory.
Yes, that's very correct. There are other things that the new investment guidelines have introduced that should force trust boards or trustees to create the structures necessary to implement these new constituent funds or these subgroups. And yes, it's very compulsory and it's mandatory for every Tier 2 corporate trustee to ensure that all their scheme members have been put in one of these constituent funds. I'm sure in our subsequent sessions we'll go into the details around the rules for switching, the rules around these constituent funds, how does it work, how do you make an election and stuff like that. But for today we are introducing the idea, we are introducing, giving a certain background for these new investment guidelines, and to help you guys, or to help our viewers brace themselves for what's to come.
Yes, these are interesting times. And so one last question before we go on a break, and just to remind you that you can still leave your questions and your comments in the chat session on Microsoft Teams, and then also if you're joining us from Facebook or YouTube, you can still leave your comments and your questions there, and we'll answer them before we go or after we come from the break. And just to let you know that the guidelines can also be shared with you, so you can contact your relationship manager or Petra through our customer service emails, and we can share the guidelines with you. So one final one before we go on break: what are the implications we are looking at for individuals and then the employers for such a change?
Okay, so implications are quite, I think it offers flexibility, this new guideline for the individual, for employers, what I can say is it means that we need to provide the right information. So if person A's age is 30 years and you provide the wrong date of birth, then in our system it shows that the person is 45 years. We would then go ahead and put them in the wrong fund.
So don't reduce their age or increase their age.
Exactly. Some people increase their age or reduce their age so they could work more, or increase their age so they could. It then goes to affect. So employers will have to ensure that we have the right bio data of their employees on file. And for employees, I think personally, I would say that we just need to take a lot of active interest in this pension benefits situation, and make sure that we know what's going on, and for the options that we need to use to better our lot, we take those options and get the advice that we need to be able to make these decisions now, because it's almost too late when you have to decide at 55 years that you could have increased your contributions by 100 cedis and change what you are going to earn. 2 years is not going to make any difference, but when you are 35, it could make a big difference if you change your contributions by adding 100 cedis per month, and maybe you didn't know you could do that. So take an active interest, and there are options to change, like as we saw in the various ones, to change from the various fund options if you fall in the right age bracket, and reach out. We are very available on social media, and people can advise you. I think there are quite a lot of technical pros and cons and implications. I'll let Caleb touch if there are any. But again, this session is supposed to be the introductory one where we sort of get our feet wet. As we continue next week, there's another session where we go in a little bit deeper about the implications, about how to work in this particular regime and in this environment, and how to navigate it, both for employers and for employees, and then we move on from there.
Okay. So as Eugene has rightly said, we will be continuing this set of webinars from next week and talking more about this. Today we're just getting comfortable with what Fund 1, Fund 2, Constituent funds stand for. So we'll go for a quick break and we shall come back and take your questions.
It's possible to achieve your financial goals. However, finding the right solution for your financial goals can be complicated. From finding the right investment to managing all your accounts with different providers, or being able to fully track your transactions. So, we thought of making it simple for you. Whatever your goal may be, the Achieve app gives you the right support system to get you there. It provides you with easy access to the right financial products you need to realize your goals. The sign-up process is simple and without any stress. You're also able to grow your savings and investment with the DigiSave account. You can also monitor your transactions effectively. So, download the app now and do more with your cash.
Goals, dreams, aspirations. We all have them, and they are the reasons why we save and invest, aren't they? But are you saving right? Because if you're not, then you're setting yourself up for disappointment. Let me introduce you to Petra's Wealth Planner, a personal financial planning and advisory service for individuals who desire to achieve their dreams. With Wealth Planner, a trained individual sits with you and develops a financial plan based on your unique needs and recommends the appropriate financial investment to attain your goals. What you need to do is to contact Petra for a planning session, and an advisor is going to call you to introduce him or herself and get to know you better and understand your current position and what your desires are. Then your goals are clearly outlined and a financial plan is developed based on your unique situation. Your advisor will also make some savings and investment recommendations to you to consider in executing the plan. Remember, the right execution is what leads to achieving your goals. That is why your advisor will keep tabs on your plan and provide ongoing advice throughout the execution until your goals are achieved. So, what are you waiting for? Call us on 0242 435 037 or send us a DM on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram at Petra on social, and let's get started. Petra.
Welcome back. So we are going to delve into the questions that we have. The questions are very interesting, so it tells me people are really listening and understanding some of these things. But just to repeat, we will go into detail again from next week in our second part of this webinar series. And you can equally reach out if you're a Petra customer, even a non-Petra customer, to our relationship management team or to our customer service team for more information about this, or an advisor, and we shall be able to help. So to start off with the first question, and this goes to Caleb, is it possible to formally request the split of your fund, of your money across funds? So say 50 for conservative and then 50 for aggressive.
Yeah, I'm laughing because that's one of the first questions we got when we had some engagement with the regulator, I think a few months back. And yes, it's an interesting question, but unfortunately, no. You can't do that. If I understand the question, you want to be able to, let's say, put maybe 50% of your contributions in Fund 1, and another 30% in Fund 2, and 20% in Fund 4. That's what the person is asking.
He wants to have the best of both worlds.
Yeah, but these guidelines don't allow that. I don't know if in the future the regulator can look at that. But like we mentioned earlier on, for the Tier 3, the trustees are allowed to set up their own constituent funds with their own rules. And so, you may have Petra looking at doing something like that in the near future. But for now, for your Tier 2, which is the mandated part of your pensions, you can't choose to have your contributions split amongst the funds.
Okay, but if I may just touch on that a bit, if you look at the asset allocation breakdown that Caleb gave us, essentially breaking up your fund into Fund 1, Fund 2 essentially fits into one of the funds. Because we're talking about 45% in variable fund and another 65% in for one fund. And then you go into another fund where it is 60% in variable assets and another 40% in fixed assets. And so when you are in a fund which is very conservative and you want to break it up and have half of your funds in an aggressive and half of your funds in a conservative, that actually fits you in the middle one, which you can actually elect to join. Do you get what I'm saying? So it really doesn't serve any purpose to say I want to break my fund to have 60% here and a 50% here. It actually fits into one of those funds. So because when you have broken your funds into 50% in Fund 2 and 50% in Fund 1, what will essentially happen to your contributions is what is happening in Fund 2 or in Fund 3.
Yes.
I hope you got what I'm saying.
I do.
But then again, today's is very introductory. As we continue, we'll get a lot more into the details of these investment decisions. Sarah?
Okay.
So I think it's also important just to add that for someone, for the person who asked that question, I can imagine you have some contributions that you have control over. So unlike the Tier 2 where there's some 5% going every month from your employer to Petra, for other contributions, other side hustles that you may have, you can control where you put those monies. And that is where we have Petra. That's why I would always emphasize the fact that you can talk to Petra at any time. Contact us, speak to any of our advisors, speak to any Petra staff, and then they would help you answer some of the questions like how much should I put in this kind of fund. We have different products that can fit your different needs, right? So if you talk to Petra, when you talk to Petra, you should be able to have more control around the contributions that are voluntary, like your Tier 3 or any other personal pensions products that we have.
Okay. Yeah. All right, thank you very much. And this second question, so this actually has tackled most of the questions people are asking. So this second question, Eugene, if you can take it. So if I stay long enough with a company to graduate from Fund 1 to say Fund 2, so as my age moves, would I, as a customer, have to call my trustee to move me to Fund 2, or will the change be done automatically as my age increases?
Absolutely automatically, right? So the trustees of the fund do a reevaluation of it from month to month, and we categorize the customers. So this is not even done by the employers, it's done by
Petra.
Okay.
So you don't need to do anything. You'll be advised.
Okay. And then the next question, if you could still take that for us. Assuming I fall under Fund 1 and I choose to be on Fund 4, can I change from Fund 4 to Fund 1 from time to time? Like just flip-flopping in between funds?
Yes, I believe according to the guidelines, you are allowed to switch funds, but not twice within a 12 months period without a charge. So it's advised that you can switch just once in a 12-month period by electing, sending out notification that I want to switch from Fund 4 to Fund 1. And then next year you can change from Fund 1 to other fund that you want to. But if you try to do it twice within a year, then there will be a charge which we will be advised on as this goes further down the list.
Okay. And the question I have here as well says, what is the risk appetite for each of the new allocation funds? I think this is a two-edged question. So the first one talks about the risk appetite. I think we touched much on it when we looked at the table, but we'll still just go over that for you. And then, are these pension funds protected, or do they have to be protected? So what are the risk appetites that come with each, or the risk exposure that you have with each asset, each allocation?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, we touched on the different types of investments that these contributions can be invested in, whether they are variable or they are fixed. So what this individual may be calling a risky investment or the risky asset would more likely be the variable income type of investment. And so the limits for each constituent fund, for each fund, should tell you how exposed you are to a variable income asset class. For example, for the aggressive fund, you have up to 60% of the investments in variable income. So that means that that fund is exposed, can be exposed up to 60%, in variable income, in a more, risky, in quotes, assets compared to other funds which are conservative or moderately conservative. So how exposed you are depends on what fund you are in, because these funds have their limits. And so that's how I'll answer that question, and I'm sure you should be able to get it.
If I may add to that, I just want to reiterate that these are pension funds.
Yes.
And safety is the key word. I would not be able to stress enough the kind of rigorous regimes that we have to go through with NPRA, with the investment guidelines, and with the bands of things that we can do with these funds in the name of ensuring the security of funds, because it's a social protection thing that we're doing. We are not like a traditional financial services provider or a fund manager that can decide to invest your money anywhere and provide reports for your safety protection. NPR goes to the extent of determining what we can invest in and what we can do, and there's just too many checks to make sure that these monies are kept in the safest possible way, because these are the livelihoods of people when they finish their working life. So there is no risk-free investment, but pension funds are pretty much the safest of funds that you could have. And these regimes are quite hard and well implemented here in this domain in Ghana. So I just wanted to reiterate that, and we work with this locally. What Caleb mentions with these, there's a lot of analysis, even when we look at variable asset classes, right? To look at the history performance of these asset classes before investment decisions are made, and there's a lot of following of the stock's performance to ensure that there is not a loss. And even if there is a loss, it doesn't affect the total portfolio of an individual. So just listening to the second part of the question, I just want to give the individual as much comfort as possible that these are pension funds, and to the latter, they are held to the best of safety as the watchword, right? They are not, as it were, financial investment fund. They are being invested, but we are not being judged as, we are not here talking about how well our returns are. We're talking about how well we are keeping your money and ensuring that the value is being retained. And so the safety is a key thing and over here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So your funds are very safe, not just because it's with Petra, but also because there are higher regulatory mechanisms that ensure that pension funds are kept well. So this one to you, Caleb, because you are more of the portfolio person and the investments person at Petra. So this person says, why would my colleague have a different return from mine?
Thank you, Sarah. And yes, obviously your colleague would have a different return. Your colleague will have a different return if your colleague is in a different fund, right? So if you are working in the same organization, and it's important to note that these funds are invested based on the guidelines set for those particular funds. So if you are in Fund 1 and your colleague is in Fund 2, you don't expect to have the same return because your colleague's funds are invested during this year. And of course, the earlier you join any investment, the better typically your return is. So there are different factors that would give you a different return. For this discussion, if you're in a different fund, then you have different returns.
Okay, yeah. All right. And then there's one more that talks, I think you've already handled this. How do I know my risk tolerance or investment philosophy or personality? We understand that this, when it comes to constant funds for this, it's more based on your age. So you pretty much can't do anything about it when it comes to tier 2. However, they can contact Petra for further information. We have advisors on standby that can talk to you about your risk tolerance, your goals for your investments, and then the kind of personality. I think you have tests and things on your website as well.
Opportunity to make extra contributions and receive the money as lump sums in tier 2, and tier 3. Now that all that the law brought was essentially a blanket where everybody's contribution was in one basket and was being invested as a lump sum, and the returns were being given to everybody. Now, after, let's say, 14 years after that, the regulator sees there's an opportunity to further better the lives of people by introducing levers in there so that people could benefit from the varied investment that could be done with their monies, right? So before was just SNIT, which was insurance. Then there is tier 2 and tier 3 into a general pool which was being invested for everybody, irrespective of your age, irrespective of your investment horizon. Now there's the opportunity to create pools of people based on their age, based on the time that they have to retirement, and use that to make better investment, to ensure that they have better benefits when they go on retirement. And this is the reason why constituent funds or these new investment guidelines are being brought into place. So this is the main reason I see. Just natural progress, I believe. Fairly complex for us trustees. Petra is quite excited about this because we really believe that it gives a lot of value to the individuals, and our systems are in the best places to implement this. Our teams have been trained and retrained to be able to offer the advice and to implement these changes and to give you more value. As I reiterated, this could make the difference of up to 100 or 40,000 or 50,000 in your pension benefits. Just as you are, even without a change in your salary, it could make that change because now you are younger and much of your funds is being put in an aggressive portfolio. You can be making 100 cedis more per month, and that could ensure that in 15 years or in 20 years when you go on pension, you could have 50,000 more than what you have today without your salary increments, which would be. So this is really the opportunity that the new investment guideline presents to all of us.
Okay, thank you very much. So please note again that you can still get the video of this on our YouTube channel. That's Petra Achieve More, as well as Facebook. You can still find the recording there afterwards, and you can still contact us for more information on this. So So pretty much everybody is asking questions around the same things, and I think we've done justice to a lot of those. I'm sure somebody's already going into what we probably might be discussing next week, but so this question is actually going there. How do you pay for the charges when you switch multiple times? Is that something that will be determined later, or we shall wait for our discussion for next week?
Yeah, even MPRA is yet to come back to us on that charge. Yeah. This discussion is pretty fresh. And I like the engagement. I believe that it tells us that people are very, very interested in what we're talking about. But for the purposes of this first initial discussion, we're hoping to just break the ice and make sure that people begin to understand where the whole regime is going, and the next week and the next week series will take us deeper and deeper. But I really taken a lot of encouragement from the sort of questions that are coming. But we don't know the fees yet. That is directly to the answer, but it will become clearer as we go along. I'm not sure that there will be a lot of benefits in switching within a year. Because when we talk about risk, or we talk about the aggressive portfolios, it essentially has to do with the investment horizon. Because essentially, buying a government of Ghana security for 20 years has a higher return than buying a government of Ghana security for 2 years. So somebody who is 40 years, his money can be used to buy a still safe government of Ghana security for 20 years and get a higher return. Whereas somebody who is 58 years, his money can be used to buy a 2-year government of Ghana security. So that's what we're talking about, right? And this person, if these two people's monies are put together, we would have to buy something that is like maybe 10 years and manage when the 2-year person is trying to go on pension and get his money to him. And there's a loss for the person who is 40 years, right? And then there's a challenge for the person who is 58 years. This is just layman's English. That's not what happens, by the way. But essentially, by doing something like this, the 40-year-old person can actually get better returns and get something better from his contributions. And then the 58-year-old person can also retire very comfortably when his time comes. And this is really what this particular implication of the guideline is about, right? So we just want to make sure that we ground the understanding for everybody. In next week's session, we will go in a little bit deeper and begin to look at the implications of it, the modalities, and what it means, employees, employers, individuals, and stuff like that.
Okay. Thank you very much. So, how many times can I request to move from one fund to another? Still on switching. People really don't want to stay in one fund. But how many times can I move from one fund to another?
I think Eugene has mentioned that already. You can move as many times as you want, but you can't move for free more than once within 12 months. Right? So what we are saying is that it's not, we won't advise a movement or between funds more than once within 12 months. That I don't think it's reasonable, and it's beneficial to any customer or any contributor. But the regulations allow you to switch between funds, and there are rules around the switches, and that will come to next week. But you would charge or you pay a fee if you are switching more than once, within 12 months.
Okay. All right, so this is the final one. I think we've touched on it, but just so that if somebody joined late, how secure is the Constituent Fund in terms of security, and what are the guarantees that my returns will be better with this new arrangement? Caleb, I think you should take the returns one, and Eugene will talk about the security.
Okay, so the question is, what are the guarantees?
That my returns will be better with this new arrangement. Okay,
so in the pensions space, and like we've learned from even the financial investments or the financial security space, we don't guarantee returns. We don't guarantee returns. And if you hear anyone guaranteeing returns, then you should be careful. You should be very, very careful. And we have a track record. Petra has a track record. We've been doing this for over 10 years, and so you can tell what kind of returns we've been generating over these 10 years. So what I can tell you is that we are typically one of the best, corporate trustees when it comes to investment return, competitive investment returns, and I can assure you that that is not going to change. We are only going to get better. So you can trust that when you invest your pension contributions in any of these funds, whether Fund 1, whether Fund 2, whether Fund 3, or whether Fund 4, the returns you are going to get or we are going to deliver to you are competitive returns when you compare them to other options on the market. And I'll let Eugene talk about safety, but these returns are not risking the safety of your funds. Your funds are still safe, but we are giving you reasonable, competitive returns.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I think on security, it's the simplest way to put it is that the same security or safety regime that the regulator and Petra itself has put in place in the erstwhile investment guidelines and regulations are the same things that apply in this new fund. Essentially, it's not a new fund. It's not something new. It's essentially that same big fund that is being broken down into like smaller versions based on the individual's demographic. But then the way that it's going to operate, the rules and the guidelines remain the same. So what the MPI has put in place, and that has helped us to be very safe and secure over the years, and what Petra has had internally that has made us very safe are going to continue to be the very same, and we continue to improve those benchmarks year on year. So they are as secure as we continue to get. So nothing has changed. As Caleb said, it is the internal asset allocations that are going to change. We have continued to invest even before constituent funds in variable and fixed income assets. We've only been doing it as a bulk part of the whole funds that we manage. Now we are going to have to break the funds into pieces based on people's age and change the assets allocation between variable assets and fixed assets. That's really what's going to change here. I know it gets a little bit complex for the portfolio guys, but this is just for me and those of us who want to see it as simple as it's supposed to be. So nothing on the regime, the processes that we are supposed to go through to make sure that there is security around the fund, nothing has changed. And so you can be assured that what has been is going to continue to be or even get better. What this allows us is a little bit more flexibility to do better based on people's age and based on what the fund has to offer.
Thank you very much. So nothing has really changed. You're already investing in both variable and fixed income, but now it's just going to be segmented on the basis of your age. And so for today, before I have my panelists give us their final remarks, we have learned a bit about the new investment guidelines, especially when it comes to constituent funds. So you're put into different categories based on the age that you fall in between. It is compulsory for tier 2 and voluntary or not too mandatory for tier 3. And you are allowed to do certain things. This is just the first part in a set of series that we're going to be talking about. So we'll be back again next week to talk about the second segment about it and get more complicated with some of the things. But in the meantime, if you need to get any information about this at all, you can actually get it from our website. This video will still be up on YouTube, so you can refer to it. And you can share it with your colleagues as well, so they can also be informed about this. So last words to anyone that's watching. I'm sure we have helped them calm their fears about the new guidelines. But last words to anyone watching.
I think I can't say this. I'll say two things. First, Petra is excited. About the introduction of these new investment guidelines because over the years we've built certain competencies, certain structures, certain abilities that are going to now come to bear. With the introduction of these new investment guidelines, we are very excited because we want the opportunity to show our customers that we can provide them better services. We can provide them customized services when it comes to their investment goals and objectives. So Petra has been ready for this for years, and we are happy to do this for our customers. The last thing I would like to say is don't forget to talk to Petra. If you have any question, if you have anything about your investment goals or not just investments, anything about your dreams, your aspirations, what you want to do in the next 10, 15 years. How do I get to run a business in 15 years' time? How do I get to be a CEO in 20 years' time? All those questions, we can help you answer them.
And this advice is free?
Yes, it's very free.
All right.
It's very, very free advice.
Okay.
Call us, WhatsApp us. Just talk to Petra, and you won't regret it. All right, thank you.
Yeah. And Eugene?
Yeah, so my last words will be that in an economy such as ours, where it's really difficult to save, right, and things get hard by the day, a scheme that allows you to save involuntarily, where you have little control, money comes out of your account, and you have tax advantages for making some of these savings. It makes a big difference over a long period to make some of these commitments. I think you lose a lot if you don't take advantage of these opportunities. So talk to Petra, talk to us. Our advisory team is on hand. Reach us on social media, send us an email, and let's talk and see how we can help you better your fortunes, both for now and for the generations of yours that comes after you. We can put together small plans that can change things around for you. And we now have direct debits that you can actually make payments go out of your account without your knowledge. You don't need to remember to come and make payments. And these small contributions can make a big difference in the end, either through your employers or voluntarily by yourself. These can be done. We have products. We have developed quite a number of them that meets various needs for customers, both post-retirement and early life products that meet various needs. So please reach out to us and let's help you better your financial fortunes. Thank you very much. Now, I hope this has been very informative for your audience.
It really has. Thank you also for being very great panelists. And this is how far time will allow us to. The conversation doesn't end. As you've heard from them, talk to Petra, engage with us on our chats, on our websites, and then on our phone numbers and all other media that you can talk to us. We have free investment advice, as they have said. We have advisors that can sit with you and tell you exactly where you want to get to once you tell them what the goal is. So we shall continue this session again at another time, and we hope to see you again next week. My name is Sarah, and I've been your moderator for this afternoon's webinar on the new investments guidelines. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We wake up and we are young. We have time. We say. Then here comes the 20s and the 30s. We are married, baby number 1 arrives, and 2, oh no, nothing saves, still struggling hand to mouth. And then one day we wake up and 60 is here. And nothing's been achieved.
Don't get caught in the cycle. Take your first step to a secured financial future with Petra. Call Petra today for your free advisory session on 024 Petra. Achieve more.
We wake up and we are young. We have time. We say. Then here comes the 20s and the 30s. We are married, baby number 1 arrives, and 2, oh no, nothing saves, still struggling hand to mouth. And then one day we wake up and 60 is here. And nothing's been achieved.
Don't get caught in the cycle. Take your first step to a secured financial future with Petra. Call Petra today for your free advisory session on 024 243 5037. Petra, achieve more.